Welcome to the hottest grappling show in Arizona. The Valley is home to an amazing grappling community. Join us as we roll through the top jiu-jitsu schools in the state. Our goal? To highlight incredible instructors, their academies, and their amazing journeys through life and jiu-jitsu. It's not the destination, it's the journey that counts. Welcome to Rollin Through the Valley. Here, Rolling Through the Valley. Here we are with Matt Gillette at Gillette Jiu-Jitsu. Oh my God, I am so excited to be here. I have so many questions for you, and we spoke a little before this, but like, your story is amazing, and I cannot wait for people to know more about you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Okay, so let's start there. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure. So my name is Matt Gillette. I'm a black belt on second degree under Andre Maracaba. I am the head coach here at Gillette Jiu-Jitsu. I'm an avid competitor on the IBJJF scene. I'm a father of 3, and I married my high school sweetheart, Amanda, and still happily married. So that's a little bit about my backstory and who I am and kind of where it pertains to Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
How I got started in Jiu-Jitsu, I had a good friend that was in the Marines, and he came back from School of Infantry, and they do MICMAP, which is Marine Corps Mixed Martial Arts Program. And he was like, do you want to roll or do you want to grapple? And I had no idea or frame of reference even what it was. And he was like, it's like wrestling. Yeah. And at that time I was much bigger than him, and he was much smaller than me. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to destroy you. Anyways, he just mopped me up pretty quick and kind of decimated me in a few minutes. And he was
a white belt.
Oh yeah, not even a white belt, like just barely learned some basic stuff, you know? And he was able to make me just feel like a child. And so I went and I was just like, if this guy who's much smaller than me and presumably much weaker than me can do this to me, imagine what somebody my own size can do to me. And that's kind of where the wheels turned, and I kind of went right into jiu-jitsu right from there to try to learn it, you know?
That's awesome. And how old were you?
Gosh, good question. I was probably in my mid-20s, so probably like 24 or something. I started much later than a lot of the other people, so.
Look at that. Okay, so you have a home gym.
Yes.
And it's epic, guys. Like, it's not like any home gym. Like, it's super nice in here.
Thank you.
So I want to know more about like the entrepreneurial side of how this all started.
Yeah. Because
that's pretty amazing. Like, a lot of people have that dream of starting a gym. Yeah. And so they think they need all this money and all these things to start it up.
Yeah.
But here you are, and you started your own gym in your house, and a very successful gym now. So please tell us your story about how this all became the gym.
For sure. So for me, starting out, I knew probably within my first month, not even knowing really how to do an arm bar, that jiu-jitsu was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Like, it just grabbed me, and I kind of gravitated towards it, and I was just hooked on it. And so I knew that someday my dream was to be a jiu-jitsu coach. And so in the meantime, though, I'm a white belt or even a blue belt or even a purple belt, and I'm working these other jobs, and jobs that I hate, by the way. And I would drive to work every morning and be at a red light where I'm going to turn into the office I was working at. Yeah. And I always wanted to make a U-turn, and was just like, I'm just going to leave and I hate this job. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But then you need money. And so you have to pay your bills, especially when you're, a husband and a father. You have to make sure that your household is taken care of.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I was working jobs I hated, I was always training and always competing, and the ultimate goal was that. A lot of people couldn't see it when I first started, and a lot of people were saying that it was foolish. You can't make money at jiu-jitsu. How are you going to support a family?
Especially back in the day,
Absolutely, and that's okay. Like, not everybody can see your dream, and it's not supposed to be for them. It's not them, it was mine, and I knew if I really worked hard at it, I could make it happen. And so I remember it was after I just won Nogi Worlds, a brown belt or something like that, and here I am working in an office, pushing paper, something that's, it's meaningless to me, and there's no sort of passion there. And it's one thing to not know what you want to do in life. I think that's a great travesty, right? If you're just kind of swimming through life and you have no idea what you want to do. But it's another thing entirely to know what you want to do, and also to feel that you know you were made for something, and then go do the exact opposite to make money. So I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to quit. I put my week's notice in, and God, the universe, whatever it is, literally, I got a phone call 2 days later from one of my friends who I used to do Muay Thai with, and he said, Matt, do you want to teach jiu-jitsu? And I was like, yes. And I was like, I'm actually looking to start doing that. And he's like, well, I know a guy. He works at the UFC gym. He knows who you are. And so he gave me the contact number. I called the guy. He's like, I don't need you to interview or anything like that. I know who you are. I want you. You're already hired. Just show up. And this was within the span of me putting my week notice in that I was quitting my job. And so I feel like sometimes you have to just take that leap. If you don't, then maybe that opportunity won't be there. Or maybe had I not taken that leap, when that call came in, I'd be like, no, I'm just going to kind of err on the side of safety and caution. So I ended up taking the job. It was awesome. We built the kids program really well. I had a really cool killer girls team back then. I had like 10 girls that were just all killers on the mats. They were just winning everything. And we would go to the AZ BJJ tournaments, and you know, we'd bring home 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 gold medals, which was amazing. And then got news within 24 hours that they were closing the gym. And so their corporate wanted to get rid of that gym. Not that it wasn't successful, they just didn't want to have that as one of their locations. And so that kind of sent me scrambling. It was also during like a summer break. So I ended up losing a lot of students just because A, I didn't have something to fall back on, and B, I didn't have their contact information, and it happened over a summer break. And so I scrambled, and I got some mats, and I ended up renting out a community center, and I would do that a couple times a week. Really hard, because in the summer here it's brutal. So I'm unloading mats by myself, which are heavy, and then rolling them out, setting them up, teaching class, and then breaking it down, and then loading it back in the car, doing it all over again. And then it started to grow, but there would be no more days they would give me. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do it out of my home and start there. And my goal was not to lose any students, and ended up losing almost every student I had, but started building back, and then doing it from here. And so I've been doing it here, I think almost 5 years now. And so I think I have almost 90 students. And
5 years in this home gym.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, had to kind of do it all on the fly, and kind of forced into that, you know, in terms of having that 24-hour notice, you know, and looking back, best thing that could have ever happened to me. And oftentimes this life is, you know, like something that you think was a disaster ends up being the biggest blessing in your life later on. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, so now we're here and we're happy, and I teach 5 classes a day. I have 2 adult classes, and then I have 3 back-to-back kids classes. I've had to cap out my kids classes several times where I'm closing it and putting a waiting list. And then that fills up, and then I could make a 2nd kids class, and now a 3rd kids class. And I'm at capacity again now with more people wanting to come in, which is an awesome problem to have.
That is super cool. First of all, I don't know anybody that has a home gym. Like, you're literally the first person that I come to, and I'm like pulling up to a house, and I'm like, wow. And I'm so impressed because your jiu-jitsu is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I mean, look at the medals. Like, how many medals? How many wins? Like,
last I checked, I think I'm at 370 competition wins and 276 by submission.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, like, you live and breathe jiu-jitsu, like, for real. Like, you wake up, you put on a gi, and you get in the gym in your house. So that's so cool.
Thank you.
What does jiu-jitsu actually mean to you, though?
I mean, there's so many things. Like, to me, I think the best way that I think about it now is almost like recess for adults, right? When we're kids, we have to go do our schoolwork, and we go to our classes, then we get out for recess, and we get to see all our friends from our other classes that we don't get to see during the day, and we get to play and have fun, right? And I feel like that's kind of how it is for adults. Like, we all work in different places, but for that hour a day, we all get to come together with your friends and have fun on the mats and play. And it's like, jiu-jitsu is a game in the sense. Yes, it's a martial art where you're doing self-defense. Yes, it's a competitive sport, but it's also a game where you get to play and have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to be learning as much, you know? And so that's kind of how I think about it now, you know?
How do you think it relates to life?
Ooh, this is a long, this could be a very long answer, because I feel like there's so many areas in where it does relate to life. One being that the self-confidence aspect that it's going to give you, and the self-esteem aspect and the self-love aspect. I can't tell you how many kids that I've had come in that have their shoulders back, or they don't make eye contact, and their body language is telling the sign that they're not confident, or maybe they're being bullied, or maybe they don't have friends, right? Within a couple of weeks of them being here though, hanging out with other kids, learning how to defend themselves, maybe they just learned the most basic move, maybe an escape, or maybe a choke, or maybe a key lock even. You start to see their shoulders come back a little bit, and their body language changes. They're being more friendly with the other kids. They're talking more freely. And that has big implications that might ripple into that person's life. You know, you might change the trajectory of a kid's life through jiu-jitsu, take all the competition aspect out of it, just the benefit of that, you know? And there's so many other things, like, just like in life, you're not always going to be on top, right? You're going to have great moments in life, but then you're going to have pitfalls, and you're going to have rock bottom moments when you're on the bottom. But just like in jiu-jitsu, you're never on top forever. You could be in top position trying to pass, and you get swept. Now you're on the bottom, right? And you're never on bottom forever. You can always work and get a sweep, you know? And so that's one of the aspects there too. And I think life lessons and just the ability to deal with life a little more too, I think as adults especially, we're either dwelling in the past, right? What we could have done, what we should have done, or in the future, what we need to do, or anxious about what we have to do, and that's kind of the anxiety aspect. But we're very far often not in the present moment. But in jiu-jitsu, when you're grappling for that 5-minute session, someone's trying to kill you, whether it's a simulated kill or not, you can't think about anything else but the present moment. And so what that does is it gives adults and kids alike a reprieve from all the thoughts they're thinking about. Oh, my wife just left me, or oh, my dad's in the hospital, or I just lost my job. For 5 minutes, they can't think about anything but that present moment, because there's an immediate threat. And so I feel like it gives your subconscious a reprieve from all those negative thoughts, and then you get all the good feeling endorphin rush from the training, as well as the physical aspect, right? And so another thing in jiu-jitsu too, like I said, I know it's a lengthy answer, but it's very complex, you know, is one of the life lessons too is, like, think about how many training partners you've had over the years, probably hundreds or thousands, right? And then think about how many of those people have quit and how many of those people have stayed, right? And what a great correlation it would be to life too, is that, like, people come and go. There's people that are in your life for a season. There's people in your life forever. There's people that you started jiu-jitsu with that quit after a month, that quit after a year, that quit after 6 months. And so, not that it's a good thing, but I think it does help you acclimate to loss a little bit. Maybe people come and go, and you realize that it's not personal sometimes. It's just everyone has their own path and their own journey, you know? And so I think those are some of the life lessons, or applicable things into life, you know?
Absolutely. And also there's a big mental game within competition. And I know, obviously, you've competed. So let's get into that a little bit more. Tell us about your very first time competing ever, and how that went.
Yeah, so my story's a little different than most, probably. I never got to compete as a white belt. So unfortunately, I don't have a single medal up there that's a white belt medal.
Why not?
And nor do I have a picture of me as a white belt. So I got my white belt I got my blue belt, I'm sorry, in 5.5 months, which is extremely quick, especially given from the instructor that I'm under, Professor Andre, you know? And so,
were you a wrestler or what?
No, I didn't wrestle. I didn't do anything. I used to race motocross and motorcycles and BMX and skateboarding and stuff like that. I never played any traditional sport, right? And don't get me wrong, I didn't come in and I was like this talented kid. I sucked when I came in. You know, I had a different philosophy approach to when I started training, which I think helped me excel much quicker than others. But so I'm a brand new blue belt, let alone brand new to jiu-jitsu entirely. And I signed up for the AZBJJ. I think it was the International Open back then or something like that. And I remember telling my family that I'm going to compete, and my family, my in-laws, I had brothers and sister-in-laws and friends, and there's like 20 people going to come watch me, right? To make it even more nerve-wracking. So I remember driving over there, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I competing? Like, you literally just started training. You're crazy. Like, you're going to look like a fool. And I'm thinking, I pull over on the side of the freeway, and I was on the 10 freeway, because back then it was in Phoenix, the tournaments. And I was like, what excuse can I make to get out of this? And I said, I can fake like I'm sick. I can say like I have car trouble, but I'm like, there's so many people coming here already, and they're already en route. I remember calling them like, did you guys already leave? They're like, yes. And I'm like, okay. They're like, why? I'm like, no, just wanted to make sure you're going to be there on time. And so I'm like, you know what, suck it up. So I get to the tournament, and I'm in by the bleachers warming up, and I remember seeing Parker, who at that time was a brown belt, one of Carlos Fria's brown belts. Parker, if you don't know him, which you probably do, is an amazing human being. He's an older gentleman and one of the nicest guys on the planet. And I remember seeing him, and he was warming up, and I was like, man, if he can do it, and he's like twice my age, like, it gave me courage, and I'm like, I can go out there and do it. And so really nervous, get out there my first match, and I win by a loop choke submission, which is awesome.
There you go.
And so I'm like, great, this is awesome. Second match, I win by Kimura. I'm like, this is awesome, and I'm in the finals now, you know? I'm like, all right, this is not as bad as I thought, you know? And as you know, there's a huge disparity sometimes in years under a belt, right? And so if you go to a white belt tournament, you might have a guy that's 2 years white belt, 3 years white belt, they're on their way out. Same with blue. You get a guy who's 5 years at blue belt, he's on his way out about to get his purple belt. And so that's kind of who I came up against the finals, right? I'm 5.5 months in, and now I'm competing against a guy who's been training for 5 years, you know? And so I ended up doing pretty good the first part, and got my guard pass, got mounted, and then ended up getting choked in like the last 20 or 30 seconds, you know? But so I got silver my first tournament.
That's a great turnout.
It was an eye-opener, and then after that, the nerves went away, and I just fell in love with the competition side.
That's amazing. And so you've been competing. You still compete? Like you literally still compete?
Yeah, within the last 3 years, I think I've got over 50 IBJJF titles and gold medals over the last 3 years at black belt. In 2022 and 2023, I was the #1 Masters black belt heavyweight in the world at Masters 2, and the only American in the top 10. So
crazy.
This year, I've slowed down a little bit. I think I've only got like 15 IBJJF titles. I've been focusing.
You know, that just gives me goosebumps because like the work ethic, like it's not easy. Like jiu-jitsu is not easy, and competing is definitely not. And I mean,
most of those are bought at yard sales.
That just gives me goosebumps. That's really awesome. Do you still get nervous?
No, not at all.
No?
I get excited. And I think one thing is I'm really big on the cerebral aspect of fighting. I feel like it's 80-20. It's 80% mental, 20% physical. I feel like at a certain level, everyone knows the same moves, right? And so do I believe in my ability to armbar you more than you believe in your ability to stop my armbar? And I feel like a lot of it comes down to that self-belief. And the more competent you are in a move, the more confident you are, right? And so the more confident you are in your game, the more confident you're going to be in your game, the less nervous you're going to be, right? And I used to do a segment back in the day called Mindset Monday that I started for a little while. And one of the topics I talked about on there was how you can change words and how they have either repercussions or benefits, how your brain perceives them, you know? And so instead of saying anxious or nervous, I would say excitement or eager, right? And put a positive connotation on it or a positive spin on it. And that helped out a whole lot doing that, you know? That was a big improvement on making it easier to compete, you know?
So is that what you tell your students too?
Yeah, so that's the one good thing about competing is I'm able to kind of share not only my jiu-jitsu, but the competition mindset and just anything I've learned over the years, you know, like whether it be like a sports psychology or just cerebral practices. I'm really big on visualization, you know? And so I feel like oftentimes the hardest part in a match is the waiting to have the match. And for anybody who's competed, they kind of know that once you kind of slap hands and the referee says combate, like everything else kind of goes out the window and the nerves aren't there anymore, and it's just jiu-jitsu, right? And so what I do for my students, and it may seem silly, but I'm all for being silly if it leads you to the top of the podium, right? And I make them stand as if they were standing on the sidelines waiting for the referee to call them. And sometimes I'll put a referee shirt on even to make it even more realistic, right? And I'll have them run out. And I always recommend them to run. I don't want them to walk. Like the goal is we want to beat our opponent to shake our referee's hand. We want to beat our opponent to get to our game plan first. We want to sweep or submit first. And all those little firsts kind of end up with you being first on the podium, in my opinion. And so I'll have them run out and they'll shake the referee's hand. I'll say combate after they shake their partner's hand, and then they go back to the wall. And we do this hundreds and hundreds of times because what we're doing is we're creating muscle memory, mental muscle memory, right? So they come on the mat. When you're on the mat, on deck, waiting to come on the mat, all those nerves are going through your head, right? And I'll do it so much to where I create different scenarios with them. They'll come out and I'll say, oh, is your name Gilbert? No, I'm Matthew. Okay, switch sides. Or I'll tell the person who's not even there, switch sides. Because that happens all the time in the tournament. They go out there and then they ask the kid, is your name this? And the kid's like, I don't even know my own name.
That's where the nerves come in again, like, oh my God. Where am I going?
Correct. And then if that does, what that does is it kind of short circuits your mindset to where you're no longer in that game plan mode. Now you have to think about something else. So I do that over and over to where it seems mundane, but I want it to seem mundane to them because then it tells their brain that this is normalcy. We've done this millions of times. There's no reason. It's like blinking or breathing. Why get excited? Why get nervous? There's no point because we've done it so much.
That explains, okay, so you guys are always within the top 5.
Thank you.
But right now you're in the top 3.
Yeah.
And that's like consistently, like this is way overdue, guys. Like, I should have been here a long time ago. I just love to see this. You've competed so many times. What is one of the biggest lessons competitions and competing has taught you?
Really just adversity, and I think kind of like human development. You know, like each competition, I like to say, gives us the feedback that we need, right? And so that's what's so important about competition to me, is it's like, when you come back, whether you win or lost, there's always something you could have improved on. Even if you have a flawless victory, like you finished the guy in 10 seconds. Okay, maybe that's going to be hard to improve on. Maybe we go for 9 or 8, right? There's always little things, right? And so sometimes too, that when you're rolling in the gym, you're going with the same people over and over again, that sometimes your game becomes stagnant versus each other because you both know each other's game so well, right? So maybe you're hitting footlocks or a loop choke or a Kimura on the same person over and over. Their defense is going to be naturally better, and they know you like that, right? And then vice versa, they're going to shut each other's games down. Where in the tournament, it gives you a little more option to go against somebody you don't know, and vice versa, they don't know your game, right? And so if there's any mistakes that are made, they're kind of exposed there, and then we can go back to the drawing board and fix it. And so that's what I mean by the human development aspect, is we're getting that feedback, and then instantly we can go to the gym and fix it. And then we come back, and now we're version 2.0 or version 3.0 or 4.0, you know?
Do you think competition is for everyone?
Great question. I honestly don't think it's for everybody. I think that everyone should try it once if you can, to test yourself. Now, within your limitations, right? If you're in your 60s, I'm not saying go into the adult division. They have brackets and they have age groups for a reason, right? As well as weight classes. So you're going against somebody who is in usually the same timeline of life with you, right? If they're in their 30s or their 40s, they also have kids, they have responsibility, they have a job. They're not training, 7 days a week. So, and I think if it's something that you fear, don't let that fear control you and limit you. You might turn out like me. Maybe if I would have backed away and didn't do it, I wouldn't be here to talk to you, and I wouldn't have any of these medals, and I wouldn't be pursuing my dream, right? And so I think facing that fear is always a healthy thing for you. And what's the worst that happens? You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that's going to change your life. You know, if you win this tournament, is it going to change your life? No. So that means if you lose this tournament, how is it going to change your life? You know, and just because you lost, it doesn't mean you're a loser. And I think a lot of people have a bad misconception about that. You know, I lost, so I'm a loser. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Just by going out there makes you not a loser. You had the courage to do it. It's always easy to sit back and judge and say this, but when you're that man in the arena or that woman in the arena actually doing the work, it's much different. And I feel like that competition, it really introduces you to yourself, the person you are. And you're able to develop yourself from the feedback, whether it's winning or losing, you know? So I think I think it's good, but like I said, if it's somebody who's deathly afraid of it, then if really you are so adamant about not doing it, then that's fine too. I'm never going to pressure somebody to compete, you know what I mean? Because I know how it feels. And not only that, everything is not for everyone. Everybody has different mindset. Everybody has different interests. Some people just come here for a break. They come here to train and they just want to forget about life for an hour. Or they come for the physical aspect part of it. They never want to compete. Or they're a hobbyist. Or they're somebody who's had a lot of injuries and maybe they can't compete. But they're still getting all those other benefits from jiu-jitsu. So I would say competing is not the whole piece of the pie. It's a small piece of the pie, you know?
What advice would you give your younger self if you could go back in time?
So I would say that I kind of like how everything turned out for the most part. So I don't want to tweak stuff too much. I mean, a lot of people ask that, like, if you could go back in time, would you change anything? And I'm like, I don't know if I would or not, you know, because whether it was good or bad, it led you to where you are now. And there's so many lessons that are taught that are from mistakes, right? And so maybe the only one thing I could think of, though, is that I would take care of my body a little bit better. There's so many times, countless times, even up to now, that I compete when I'm injured and I shouldn't. You know, it's like, I
mean, it's not you, it's everyone.
No, for sure. You know, it's like, hey Matt, I thought you literally couldn't walk yesterday. Your back was thrown out. I'm like, yeah, but let's go. Walking and rolling are different, right? That's okay. You know,
mess yourself up though.
No, and then you hurt yourself worse. You know, and not only that's like sometimes I've lost to people that I have no business losing to, but I'm at like 10%. You know, so then I have to live with that the rest of my life. Like, I think there's always going to be an intimidation factor coming into jiu-jitsu, or anything. You know, when I first started at Power MMA, I walk in and there's like all these UFC fighters and Bellator fighters and really good jiu-jitsu guys. And it turns out they're some of the nicest people in the world. You know, martial artists in general are some of the nicest people in the world. And a thing is too, is like, these people don't want to fight outside of that. Like, they fight for a living. They fight every day training. Last thing they want to do is fight somebody at a bar or fight you over something stupid. They're not going to get paid for that. And there's really no like thrill in it or any sort of benefit to it. So plus they're tired from actually training because they're doing something, right? And so my advice for somebody like that is just to come in, that be humble when you come in. Don't come in and act cocky or like you're a badass or anything like that. Like, be willing to learn, you know. That's the huge thing, is be coachable. A lot of people can come in and they actually stunt their own growth by not being coachable. And the thing is, like, at this point, like, I've been a black belt. The person coming in hasn't been a black belt. So it would behoove them to really absorb what I'm saying to them, because I have that knowledge, you know. It's like, and so that part, and then how I was able to accelerate quicker in jiu-jitsu for me was, I had a different philosophy and mindset when I came in. I came in with the growth mindset. My goal was to learn every single day. I wanted to tap as many possible times every day. So I would never fight an armbar or a choke or a kimura or a footlock. I would tap as soon as they grabbed it. Are you okay? Is your arm okay? Yeah. I accept the technique. And what that did is, it led me to get less likely to be injured, because I'm not fighting off an arm or a kimura with potentiality of being injured. But it also saved time. And what I mean by that is, if I stay in this armbar and I defend, the guy's more than likely still going to get the armbar. He already locked it in. I made mistakes that led to this armbar. Why don't I figure out what mistakes I that led me here, rather than waste 30 to 45 seconds, still get tapped. Now I have 30 more seconds to get tapped again with something different. And with each outing, it broadens my perspective and my view of jiu-jitsu. So I become better faster, and I'm less likely to be injured, you know? And by tapping instantly, I can back up quicker and realize, oh, I let him get an underhook. I left my arm out, or I let him get wrist control, or I let him get deep in the collar, right? And I'm figuring out my mistakes much quicker than trying to fight at the very last ending of that mistake, right? So that would be my advice, is tap often, tap early, and don't care about what happens in the gym. The gym, I tap all the time in the gym. I don't care. I've tapped thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I'm never one of these guys, I'm not going to tap out of pride and get hurt. I don't care what belt it is. And the gym doesn't matter. The tournament matters, right? And so I want to make all my mistakes as much as possible in the gym. That's how I grow. If I'm not making mistakes in the gym, that means I'm not trying new stuff. And that means I'm stunning my growth, right? You see it so often. Guys come into the gym and they train to the point where they don't want to lose, meaning they stick to their A game, right? And in doing so, yes, they're winning those matches in the gym, but are they actually increasing their trajectory of growth if they're not willing to take those chances? There's so many things that I've come to the conclusion or learned different things because I was willing to try different stuff. And I got instant feedback. Oh, that didn't work, got my back taken. Or, hey, this is a new route I can take to get to this position, right? And without that willingness and ability to go in and be okay to lose, I wouldn't have learned so much, right? And so for me, I tell all my guys, like, this is the laboratory. This is where we experiment. Do all your losing in here. Who cares? There's no sign here where I'm tallying up, oh, you know, Tom tapped 47 times today. He's going to be a 5th stripe white belt for the rest of his life. No, like, it doesn't matter. That's how we grow, right? But see, people get so fixated on winning and losing in the gym when it doesn't matter, right? So that would be my advice.
What advice would you give to somebody that maybe wants to compete and they're like a little hesitant? Maybe it's their first time or they haven't done it at all. What would you say to them?
I would say just have fun. You know what I mean? Like, put it in perspective. I like to tell my students this. Yeah, there's 1,000 people at the tournament, but maybe there's 4 people actually watching your match. You know, and
nobody cares if you lose.
2 of those people are your opponent's loved ones. And 2 of those people are your loved ones. Now, your opponent's loved ones don't care if you lose. They're happy that you lost, so that's okay. You're not going to upset them, right? And your loved ones, if they really love you, don't care if you win or lose. It's not a life-changing thing, right? And so to take the pressure off and really put it in perspective, it seems like a big thing, but it's just like anything else, like riding a roller coaster. You're getting butterflies, but that's excitement, right? Or it could be fear, however you kind of frame it, you know? But just
I think it's also like letting down your coach. I think that's like the biggest thing that people think about. What do you say about that?
I would say, honestly, if any student just by going out there, I already tell them all the time, like, win, lose, or draw. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, you already won in my book because you had the willingness to put it on the line. So many people sit back and they're so scared to do things, whatever it may be in their life, and they're scared to take the risk because they don't want to look foolish, you know? But it's like, unless you're willing to be the fool, you can never be the master, right? Everyone's going to look stupid when you first start. I don't care who it was. Everyone's first tournament, you can go back and be like, oh man, like I've watched my old matches, like I can't believe I did, like this is terrible, this is me, you know? Yeah. But like you can't get to this point though if you're not willing to first fail, right? Or and the thing is, you can't win if you don't try. And so you might as well try. What's the worst that happens? You lose. I'm still going to accept you and come back to the gym and everything's going to be fine. I've lost more than you've even competed. So what does it matter? You know what I mean? Like lose 50 times and then we'll talk, you know what I mean? But even then it still doesn't matter. You still can't catch up. So it's like, I'm not going to think of you differently. But so to me, the person who actually goes out and tries is way more living life than the person who sits back and has to think about the what ifs, you know what I mean? Or I could beat that guy. Oh yeah, well then let's go do it, you know? And even if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. There's more tournaments, right?
Right. Well, I feel like I could talk to you forever, like for real. And you have so much to share, but we have limited time here. So tell us what's going on at Gillette Jiu-Jitsu. What are you looking forward to? Are you going to expand outside or keep your gym inside? Like, what are the big plans?
So like right now I'm at capacity again. Like I said, I teach 5 classes and I was at capacity with my first kids class, was forced to open a second because of demand, and then now a third, and then they're all kind of full. So I don't know. I'm at a crossroads whether I open a gym or I stay here. It's an intimate setting, you know, where I know each of my students personally on a not only by a name basis, but I really know them, and I not only do I know their outside of the gym life, but I know their games really well, and they get that one-on-one instruction from me. So I think it's a benefit. As far as the team goes, I'm really excited this year. We're in the top 3 right now. We had a little bit of a lackluster performance at the last tournament on our kids team. We had a lot of kids out of town because it was during like a fall break. And so this one we're trying to rally back. We still have quite a few kids out because it's December and things kind of slow down during the holidays. But would love to keep the number 3 spot. Eventually I'd love to get a number 1 spot on the trophy for a tournament. We've got second a few times, and so we're right there. And
rooting for you guys.
Thank you. We're such a small team, so it's like it's nice to go out there and compete with some of these large teams that have an army of kids, you know. And so I always try to have like quality over quantity. But in terms of that, you know, just keep developing our kids program and our adults program. And we'll see what happens from there, you know. Cool.
When are we going to see you compete? Come on. I need to see this. Well, I've seen you compete, but like at the league.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
For the prize money.
For sure. Yeah, so one of the reasons I stopped competing locally was with coaching. So it's not so much that it does play a factor, but it's not so much that after you're done coaching all day that you're exhausted and then they're going to have the black belts complete later on in the day, right? That sucks in it of itself. But for me, it's hard for me to justify competing when I've competed so much in terms of, let's say that my scheduled fight time is the same scheduled fight time for one of my students' first matches ever as a white belt. How can I be selfish and, well, I'm sorry, buddy, I know it's your first time doing something, but let me go do something that I've done hundreds of times already and at the local level. Like, to me, it's hard for me to justify that, you know? And another thing is too, like I said, it's exhausting coaching. Like, I can compete 20 matches and not feel anywhere near exhausted as I do with coaching 10 kids matches. And the kids matches are up and down. It's like a roller coaster.
Listen, I'm there all day and I see it. So I know, for sure. Firsthand, I know.
And so, I would love to again, you know, but it would have to be like where everything's on the right thing. One thing that I would love if they did is like maybe let the black belts compete first. That way it's done, and then they have the rest of the day to coach. That would be awesome for me. You know, I think that would be a great way to do it for any tournament. I wish all the tournaments did that. Let the black belts compete first, then you have the kids. Another good thing is all your students could watch you guys compete, you know, and see your instructor compete, you know, like, so that's why I'm more active on the IBJJF and the national scene with that, you know, and it's much harder to do at the local level because I have so many people wanting to compete.
That's something that we should bring up then.
Not to pressure anybody, just an idea. Feel free to use it. Feel free to use it.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I got so much information. Like, you're just like a wealth of knowledge. So I appreciate you sharing your story and everything. And where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram at MadzillahBJJ, and then our team page is Gillette Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram, as well as Facebook as well. So you can check me out on there, give me a follow, and I'll follow you guys back.
Definitely come visit the school. Highly recommend it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.